This tale is called Archive 01.
Fingers flipped open an old laptop, keys worn and shiny from use. The screen blinked to life, humming faintly in the dim room. The hand inserted a plain black flash drive. No label, no markings. A folder popped open on the desktop. Archive 01. In the folder were several video files. The cursor hovered over the first file. Viewing 01.mp4. The hand clicked. The video began. Grainy digital footage. Color drained. Edges bleeding static. A room. Bland. Institutional. Walls the color of old teeth. The kind of place no one remembered entering and no one cared to decorate. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, washing everything in a thin, antiseptic glare. Along the walls, 6 figures sat, silent, motionless, their eyes fixed ahead, not on each other, no conversation, no shifting, no breath that showed. In the center of the room, a single man seated in an unremarkable chair. He was not bound, not restrained, he simply sat, spine straight, hands resting on his thighs, gaze tilted downward, waiting. The feed buzzed faintly. Somewhere beneath the electronic hum, the soft tick of a wall clock dragged the seconds forward. And then, a harsh buzzer split the air. Instant, loud, industrial. The 6 figures stood. One smooth, practiced motion, as if they had done this many times before. From beneath jackets and coats, from bags and belts, they drew knives. Not ceremonial blades, not matching. Each blade was different. Personal, chosen. They moved toward the seated man. No haste, no frenzied purpose. He did not lift his head. He did not flinch. His fingers tensed once against his thighs, then relaxed. The figures closed the circle. And then, in silence, they began. Steel plunged into flesh with wet, deliberate sounds. Deep, pulsing impacts. Blood struck the floor in thin ribbons, splashing across shoes and speckling the beige tiles. No cries, no curses, no words. Just the dull percussion of blades working through meat and muscle, over and over, a rhythm of slaughter as clinical as surgery. The man's body twitched once, then stilled. Still, they worked. When the blood pooled wide and dark beneath the chair, when the limbs slackened and the head lolled forward, the figures withdrew. One by one, they stepped back. Knives lowered, clothes marked with red. Without a glance at the body, they turned. And in sequence, 6 shadows moving as one, they filed out of frame. The camera held its gaze. The man sat upright still, eyes open, unseeing, skin pale beneath the red. Then, the buzzer sounded once more. The neon sign outside the motel buzzed against the darkening sky, casting a sickly pink light across the cracked asphalt of the lot. The letters were patchy, some flickering, some long dead, but the name still bled through: Midnight Pines Motel. The air hung heavy with the weight of heat and old rain. Cicadas screeched in the trees beyond the lot, their chorus sharp and endless. Claire pulled the rusted sedan into the back of the lot beneath a sagging security light. The engine gave a dry cough before falling silent. For a long moment, she didn't move. When she finally opened the door, her legs felt stiff, her body worn too thin to fight the ache. She grabbed 2 duffel bags and a battered canvas tote and stepped out onto the cracked concrete. Jacob climbed out after her without a word, backpack slung over one shoulder. Inside the room, the air was stale and thin. A pair of beds with mismatched spreads sat beneath the hum of flickering lights. The carpet was worn flat. A single table stood against the window, one chair missing a leg. Claire forced a tone of calm into her voice, thin as it was. "Okay," she said, setting the bags down. "This one's better than the last, and the TV works. That's something."
Jacob said nothing. He climbed onto the bed farthest from the window and curled around his backpack. Claire crossed to the nightstand to plug in her phone. She pulled the drawer open, then stopped. A black flash drive lay inside, resting alone on the bare wood. No label, no dust. And when her fingers brushed it, she felt it, warm, as though it had just been held. She turned it over once, no markings. "Somebody else's crap," she muttered, and dropped it back into the drawer. She shut it without another thought. The familiar rhythm took hold. Unpack, stack clothes, set the little plastic dinosaur on the dresser, Jacob's anchor in a drifting life. The outlet sparked faintly when she plugged in her phone. The overhead light buzzed, drawing a grimace from her. She rubbed her temple, trying to fight the pulse rising behind her eyes. Exhaustion gripped her bones like a weight. From the bed, Jacob's voice came, small and uncertain. "Are we safe here?" She turned, forcing a thin smile that reached only her mouth. "Course we are, buddy," she said. "Tomorrow we'll find something better." He nodded and pulled the thin blanket tighter around himself. Claire switched off the lamp. The room fell into a waiting dark. For a while, there was only the hush of the cooling air and the endless drone of cicadas. And then, through the thin vinyl shade that covered the window, a shape, a person, still, upright, pressed close to the glass, watching. The motel room held a strange quiet in the late afternoon. The television was on, low, spitting out a stream of commercials that blurred together. Claire sat hunched at the desk, a styrofoam cup of thin, instant coffee cooling beside her laptop. She rubbed her eyes, blinked at the screen. Her phone charger wasn't where she thought it was, probably still in the nightstand. She opened the drawer, then stopped. The flash drive was sitting there, on top. For a long moment, she stared at it. No breath. No thought. Just the weight of it being there again. Her fingers hovered, then closed around it. Still warm. A long exhale pushed through her teeth. "Okay. Let's see," she whispered. She plugged it into the laptop. The screen blinked black for a heartbeat. A folder popped open. Inside, several video files. No names that meant anything. Her eyes burned. Her hand hovered over the trackpad. She clicked one. The footage filled the screen in grainy monochrome. A bland room, bare walls, an office chair in the center. A man sat there, hands on his thighs. No restraints, no fear. Off to the edges of the frame, 6 people sat in plain chairs. Still, watching. A buzzer. Claire flinched. The 6 rose in unison. Pine knives appeared from jackets and bags. They approached. The first knife struck, a wet, deliberate sound. Claire gasped, her hand flying to the laptop. She slammed it shut. Jesus Christ. The room was silent, save for the low murmur of the TV. From the bed, Jacob stirred, turning over beneath the thin covers. Claire's breath came shallow and fast. Her hands trembled. She forced the laptop open again, slowly this time. The screen came to life. the folder still open, the video still waiting. She stared at them a moment longer, then yanked the flash drive out. Without thinking, she opened the small keypad safe bolted to the wall beneath the desk and tossed the flash drive inside. The safe beeped as she slammed it shut and punched in a random code. She sank into the desk chair. Her pulse pounded in her ears. In the bed behind her, Jacob breathed softly, lost in sleep. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and old grease. Ceiling fans pushed the thick air in slow, useless circles. Claire sat hunched over a chipped table, one hand wrapped around a half-empty mug. Her eyes were hollow, rimmed red. The overhead fluorescence buzzed above the drone of a jukebox in the corner, spitting out some mournful country song that blurred into static. Across from her, Jacob worked quietly through a stack of pancakes, syrup pooling across the cracked plate. Claire rubbed her temples, breath shallow. Her skin felt thin, stretched too tight across her bones. The waitress came by with the coffee pot. Her voice was bright, worn smooth with practice. "More pancakes, sweetheart?" Jacob looked up, his face hopeful. "Yes, please," he whispered. "Okay, hun. Coming right." "No!" Claire snapped, too loud. "He's fine." A long pause. The air seemed to thicken. Jacob's gaze dropped to his plate. "But I'm still hungry," he murmured. Her hands trembled. Palms slammed the table hard enough to rattle the dishes. "We don't have the money for this, Jacob!" A sharp gasp from the waitress. Somewhere across the diner, a fork clattered to the floor. Every head turned. Jacob began to cry, silent and shaking. Claire froze, heat rushing to her face. Her voice cracked as she reached across the table. "Hey, I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean..." But Jacob pulled back, curling inward, shoulders trembling. They didn't speak while walking back. The motel room felt colder than before. Jacob curled on his bed, back to the room, a thin blanket pulled up to his shoulders. Claire paced the narrow space between the beds and the desk. Her skin buzzed. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her gaze kept drifting to the laptop. Closed. Still. But the presence of it felt heavy. Loud. Finally, with a breath caught between panic and resolve, she crouched at the desk. She opened the small safe. The keypad beeped softly. The flash drive sat there, unassuming, hiding the horrors inside it. She grabbed it, plugged it into the laptop. The screen flickered to life, the Archive 01 folder already open. Claire glanced toward Jacob. His breathing was even, still asleep. She turned the laptop volume down low, just enough to hear. Her fingers hovered, then clicked on the next video. The footage blinked in. A grainy feed, an office cubicle, and buzzing fluorescent light. A man sat in a cheap desk chair, facing the camera. Middle-aged, not restrained, silent. His hands rested on the armrests. His eyes glistened. A single tear slid down his cheek. He did not wipe it away. 6 people entered frame. Plain clothes, blank faces, no ritual, no ceremony. Each carried a blunt object. Hammers, a rusted pipe, a tire iron. They closed in around the chair. And then, the first swing. A wet, meaty crack. Claire flinched hard, hand flying to her mouth. Another blow, another. The man's body sagged under the strikes, limbs twitching. The camera feed shuddered slightly with each impact. No screaming. Only the sound of meat and bone breaking beneath metal. Claire slammed the laptop shut, breath ragged. She left the flash drive plugged in. Couldn't bring herself to touch it. Claire shakily stumbled into the bathroom, her stomach twisting into knots.
She turned on the hot water in the dingy shower. Turning to the sink, her hands trembled as she turned the faucet. Cold water hit her skin in jolts. She looked up. The mirror was fogged, though the room was still cool. And there, just visible through the haze, 6 people, standing behind her, still, watching. Her heart seized. She spun. Nothing. Empty tiles, cold air, no one. But when she turned back, her reflection stared back pale and trembling. The fog clung to the glass, slow to fade.
The box fan hummed in the corner, blades rattling faintly with every uneven turn. Outside, the motel sign pulsed against the night, its weak neon light seeping through the thin blinds in irregular flashes. The air hung thick, heavy as a wet sheet, pressing down into the room. Claire lay on her side, breath slow, jaw clenched even in sleep, the kind of sleep that only exhaustion forced. Thin, restless, close to the surface. Something pulled her from it. A presence. When she opened her eyes, Jacob was standing there, right beside the bed, silent, expressionless, his small face pale in the dark. Jacob. Claire's voice cracked with sleep. What's wrong? He didn't answer. His eyes didn't blink. A sound behind her. Shuffling. Real. Close. Claire sat up fast, breath catching, just in time to see the motel room door shift, drifting open an inch farther with a faint groan. A cold draft slid across her skin. She stood, bare feet sinking into the thin, worn carpet. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. The door creaked again. She moved closer, breath shallow. "Hello?" she asked, voice trembling. She pulled the door open another inch and leaned out. The parking lot was empty, rows of rooms identical to hers, silent beneath the buzzing glare of the overhead lights. One door across the lot swung slightly in the breeze. Nothing moved. Slam! The bathroom door crashed shut behind her. Jacob screamed. Claire spun, heart lurching. The bathroom light clicked on, harsh and yellow, bleeding out beneath the door. "Jacob?" she called. "He's in there." Jacob's voice trembled from somewhere inside the room. Claire lunged for her purse, fingers fumbling. She yanked out the small silver revolver, hand shaking. She held it up. It was much heavier than she remembered. "Get behind me." Jacob whimpered but obeyed, clutching the blanket as he backed away. Claire leveled the gun at the bathroom door. "If someone's in there, I swear to God." Step by step, she crept forward. Each breath felt too loud. With her free hand, she gripped the doorknob and slowly pushed it open. The bathroom was empty. Steam curled from the faucet, though no water ran. The mirror was fogged thick with condensation. Across the glass, 6 faint smudges, handprints, streaked downward. "No," Claire whispered. A soft chime rang out behind her. She spun. The laptop screen had lit up on the desk, glowing faintly in the dark. Reception. 03.MP4. Playing. Claire's breath came hard and fast. "Enough," she shouted. She strode across the room, slammed the laptop shut with a harsh snap. Silence flooded in again, thick, pressing. Jacob stood at the end of his bed, clutching the blanket to his chest, eyes wide and unblinking. Claire stared down at the closed laptop, chest heaving. The room seemed to hold its breath. The diner felt smaller this time, hotter. The same flickering fluorescence, the same sticky floor, but the air pressed down harder, thick with sweat and the sour stink of old coffee. Claire burst through the door, dragging Jacob by the hand. The old waitress turned from the counter, eyes going wide at the sight of her. Claire crossed the space in 3 strides and grabbed the woman's hand, shoving a wad of crumpled cash into her palm. "Please. Please watch him for a while," Claire gasped, voice breaking. "Just pancakes."
Keep them coming. The waitress stared, unsure, then nodded slowly. Jacob looked up at her, eyes wide and confused. Claire knelt down in front of him, her fingers trembling as they brushed the hair from his face. "Be good," she whispered. "I'll be right back. I promise." Jacob nodded, still too stunned to speak.
The motel room door slammed shut behind her hard enough to rattle the frame. Claire didn't stop moving. The laptop was already open on the desk. The flash drive still glowed faintly, plugged in. The Archive 01 folder waited on the screen. Her breath came in ragged bursts. Her fingers hovered over the trackpad. She clicked. Living room 1991.mp4. Grainy video swam into view. An outdated living room, pale green carpet, wood panel walls the color of rot. In the center of the room sat an elderly woman, rocking gently in a gliding recliner. She wore a thin nightgown, her face slack and distant. On the couch and love seat, 6 people sat motionless. Ordinary. Unremarkable. Watching her. A harsh metallic buzzer split the air. Claire flinched. The 6 stood in perfect unison. 2 disappeared off screen, returning moments later with a metal kerosene can and a bundle of short, thick wooden rods. They doused the woman without a word. She didn't resist. When they lit the rods, a soft glow filled the room for half a second. The flames caught. The woman screamed once, high, sharp, then folded forward, her body consumed in growing waves of fire. The others stood still, watching her burn. The video cut to black.
Claire sat frozen, staring at the dead screen. Her chest convulsed once. Then again, and the sobs came hard, tearing out of her in broken gasps. She wiped her face with a shaking hand and yanked the laptop open again. Browser. Search. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, snuff films, flash drives, real murders, link after link, forum threads, blurry articles, too much noise, too little sense. And then, a news article. Mother found guilty in child's death. Claims she was cursed by flash drive murders. Claire clicked. The article was short. Matter of fact, a mother in another state had been arrested for drowning her child in a motel bathtub. The police found no clear motive, no signs of drugs or mental illness. In custody, the woman had rambled about videos of killings she'd been sent on a flash drive. No further explanation. Claire stared at the screen. Her mouth was dry. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her hand reached for the phone almost without thinking. She dialed 9-1. She stopped. Her thumb hovered. Her breath shuddered. Fuck, she whispered and slammed the phone down, head dropping into her hands. Tears streaked hot across her cheeks. After a long moment, she grabbed the phone again and punched in a different number. It rang. "Mom," she whispered when the line picked up. A beat, then her mother's voice came frantic through the phone. "Claire. Oh my God, where are you? Where's Jacob?" Claire squeezed her eyes shut, voice breaking. "I love you," she whispered. "I'm bringing him back." And she hung up. Back at the diner, Claire yanked Jacob from the booth, her fingers biting into his wrist. The waitress started to call after them, voice uncertain, but Claire was already dragging him through the door. Jacob stumbled to keep up, eyes wide and frightened. The motel door banged open. Claire charged into the room, breath ragged. "Mom?" Jacob's voice cracked, confused. She ignored him. The laptop sat on the desk, its screen dark. She ripped the USB drive free and flung it onto the table. "No more," she hissed. "We're done." She grabbed the motel lamp and raised it high. Crack! The lamp base smashed down. Again. Plastic and metal shattered beneath her blows. Tiny shards of the drive scattered across the floor. Jacob flinched, arms over his head. Claire dropped the lamp with a sharp exhale,
seized the laptop in one hand and grabbed Jacob with the other. They were out the door before the room stopped echoing. Behind the motel, flies buzzed thick around an overflowing green dumpster. Claire forced the laptop open. The hinges fought her. She leaned her weight into it until the screen snapped, wires exposed, the case splitting at the seams. With a grunt, she hurled it into the dumpster, slammed the lid shut, and gripped Jacob's hand so tight he whimpered. She didn't let go. The car tore out of the lot, tires spitting dust. Claire's hand strangled the wheel. The cracked windows were down, the wind loud in the cabin. Jacob sat stiff in the passenger seat, backpack clutched to his chest. "Where are we going?" he asked, voice small. Claire swallowed hard. "To Grandma's," she said. "Just for a while." "Really?" Jacob asked with excitement. She glanced at him, tried to smile, but it broke as soon as it formed. Yeah, baby. You'll be safe there." They drove in silence. The radio hissed with static, no station coming through. Night pressed in. Claire's eyes burned. Her grip on the wheel had gone white, fingers numb. The road ahead seemed endless, an empty 2-lane strip winding through dark fields. She blinked. Far ahead, under a battered, flickering billboard, a group of figures stood motionless. Claire frowned, squinting. The radio clicked on. A sharp, mechanical blast of sound filled the car. Claire gasped, jerking upright. The figures ahead moved. A man was being pulled upward between the wooden supports of the sign. Arms and neck stretched taut by a rusted ratchet crank. His body twisted unnaturally as the device turned, limbs tearing with wet, horrible sounds. Claire screamed. Blinding headlights flooded the windshield. A horn blasted. She yanked the wheel hard. Tires screamed as the car skidded into the dirt shoulder. Dust boiled around them. The car shuddered to a stop. Claire gasped for air, chest heaving. Jacob shrieked awake in the back seat. "Mom, what happened?" Claire blinked, vision swimming. The road ahead was empty. The billboard was gone. Just asphalt and silence. She glanced in the mirror at Jacob. His face was pale, eyes brimming with fear. Claire swallowed. "I need to sleep," she whispered. The GPS screen glowed faintly. Next exit 12 miles. She wiped her face with a shaking hand, shifted the car back into gear, and pulled onto the road. The dark swallowed them again. The new motel looked like another world. Fresh paint, warm lights glowing behind curtained windows, trimmed hedges and small living trees. Claire pulled the car into the lot, body aching, mind half numb. Inside, she pushed a wad of crumpled bills across the counter, barely hearing the clack of the receipt printer. "Last one left," the clerk murmured, sliding over the key. Jacob perched on the edge of one of the 2 queen beds, legs swinging as he devoured a slice of pizza from a greasy box. The TV buzzed with cheerful cartoons. He laughed, mouth full, eyes bright. Claire stood in the bathroom doorway, towel draped over one arm, her breath hitched, eyes stinging. But this time, not from fear. "This is good," she whispered. "This is enough." The shower roared to life, steam curling around her. Later, she wiped the mirror clear, gazing at her flushed, tired reflection. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm okay with this." She pulled on an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, hair damp against her neck. When she stepped back into the room, the air caught in her throat. Jacob sat upright on the bed. The laptop was back. The flash drive was back, plugged in, glowing faintly. Claire's breath snapped. "No!" She lunged, ripped the flash drive free, and hurled it against the wall. Plastic cracked, a sharp piece spinning across the floor. She slammed the laptop shut.
No, 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 no! The television flickered. Cartoons vanished. Static. Then, a new video. A man suspended in darkness. Hooks driven through his arms. Limbs pulled taut by some unseen crank. The flesh stretched. Bones strained. Wet, tearing sounds filled the room. "Stop!" Claire screamed, voice raw. Jacob sat frozen. His eyes were glassy, unblinking. Claire collapsed to the floor, the last of her strength breaking. She sobbed, fists knotted in the threadbare carpet. The video kept playing.
The next day, hours away, sunlight filtered through green leaves. Birdsong drifted through a quiet neighborhood. Claire's car coasted to a stop across from a small blue house, paint bright beneath the trees. In the passenger seat, Jacob clutched his backpack, face pale with confusion. Claire reached over, brushing his hair back, tears blurring her vision. "I love you," she whispered. "More than anything. Are you coming in?" Jacob's voice was small, uncertain. Claire shook her head, throat tightening. "You're going to stay here for a little while," she said. I need to take care of something." The front door opened. Claire's mother stood there, one hand pressed to her mouth, eyes wide. "Grandma!" Jacob shouted, throwing the door open. He ran across the street into her arms. "Claire, wait!" her mother called. But Claire was already pulling away. The car rolled forward, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. She didn't look back. Leaves swirled in the wake of the tires. The alley was a crack in the city's skin. Narrow, forgotten, fenced with a rusted chain and leaning dumpsters. Claire pulled in without thinking, the car rolling to a slow stop between the trash bins and an old brick wall. The engine coughed once, then died. Lights clicked off. Darkness pressed against the windshield. Claire sat behind the wheel, eyes swollen, throat raw from hours of crying. Her knuckles stood out white against the wheel. A tremor ran through her arms. She let out a long, shaking breath. The dashboard glowed faintly. 3:41 a.m. The radio hissed with low static. No station, no voice, just the hum of a dead signal. Claire pulled her jacket tighter, trying to ward off the creeping chill. Her breath fogged the glass. "Just sleep," she whispered to herself. "Just for a minute." Her eyelids sagged, her muscles slackened, exhaustion won. Silence settled over the car. Then, movement. Shapes slipped out of the dark at the alley's edges. One by one, 6 silhouettes emerged, faintly human, but not. Their forms wavered. Details refused to settle. The more one looked, the less they seemed to belong. They surrounded the car, standing close, motionless. Hands pressed gently to the windows, fingers long and pale against the glass. One shape moved to the driver's side. It leaned close. Its face never came into focus. Just a shadow, an outline, an intent. But something watched her. Inside the car, Claire slept. Her breathing came slow and deep, lashes wet with unshed tears. Outside, the shapes waited. The static on the radio deepened, turning almost tonal, almost a voice, but not quite. Claire's eyes opened to cold. The floor beneath her was bare concrete, rough against her skin. The air bit at her lungs, thin and cold enough to cloud her breath. She blinked slowly, disoriented. Her body felt drained, limbs heavy as stone. The room around her was blank, featureless. No windows, no color, no sound beyond her own uneven breathing. Ahead, a long, narrow hallway stretched out under dull fluorescent lights. At the far end, a door stood slightly ajar. Claire's arms trembled as she pushed herself up. Her knees shook, her vision swam. She wiped at her cheek without thinking. A single tear slid down hot against her cold skin. She walked. Each step echoed faintly beneath the buzz of the old lights. The door waited, unmoving. When she reached it, she pushed it open and stepped through. The room beyond was wide and empty, its walls stretching into shadow. In the center stood a metal chair. Across from it, a tripod-mounted camera faced the chair. Its red light blinked steadily, already recording. Along the walls, a row of folding chairs. In each chair sat a figure, 6 of them. Still, silent, their gazes fixed straight ahead. They did not look at her. Claire's breath shuddered, but her feet moved of their own accord. She crossed the room slowly, one step at a time. When she reached the chair, she sat, her back straightened, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes lifted to the camera. For a moment, something broke through the numbness. Her face twisted, fear, a flicker, real, human. Then her breath caught. She exhaled, and it was gone. Buzz. A harsh metallic tone split the air. The figures along the walls rose in perfect unison, calm, silent. They moved toward her, footsteps soft against the floor, closing in. Their hands reached out to Claire.
Wind tore through the empty lot, lifting dust and tugging at the edges of yellow crime scene tape. Claire's car sat crooked in the dirt, one side half sunken, streaked with grime. The morning light was thin, gray, cold. A cluster of figures moved slowly around the wreck. 2 investigators, a forensics crew, the coroner's van waiting with its doors yawning open. Deep inside the old warehouse, down a long hallway and through an industrial door, was a large empty room, spanning into darkness. At the center of it all lay a broken, bloodied heap. Flesh, clothing, viscera, barely recognizable as human. But the face was untouched. Claire's eyes stared upward, wide and glassy. One of the investigators turned away, pulling a faded handkerchief over his nose and mouth. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. His partner crouched by the wreckage, scanning the battered ID pulled from the remains. "Yeah, it's her," he said. "Dropped the kid off with the grandmother yesterday morning." The first man spat into the dirt. "Well, no case if the suspect's dead." "Think it was the husband's family?" the second asked, standing. "Payback?" A shrug. "Who knows? She shoots the guy in his sleep, grabs the kid, disappears." He glanced once at the mangled corpse. "Someone catches up and tears her apart." "Fucking karma." He turned, waving the crew in. "Let's wrap this up. I've got a mountain of paperwork." The others moved in without ceremony. No one looked twice at her face. Claire's eyes stared upward, unblinking, as the wind stirred her hair. Far away, somewhere unseen, a folder updated itself. Claire viewing, complete.mp4.
The veil draws shut once more, and our guest from beyond fades into the hush of candlelight. You've done well to linger this long, friend. Not everyone has the stomach for such company. But should you ever feel that cold breath on your neck, or hear a whisper that don't belong to the living, just return here to the Séance Society, where the dead speak and the living listen. Like and subscribe to our channel for more ghastly tales. Oh, and don't forget your creepy cocktail recipe. It's buried down in the description.